Hello and welcome to the Helios blog. My name is Helios here for another reaction video. Today, Mikhaila Peterson interviews her father on losing his medical license. Let's get into it.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
Asked her to interview me, I suppose, about what's happening in Toronto, Ontario, Canada at the moment on the professional front relationship to me. The Ontario College of Psychologists, which is the board that regulates the practice of psychology in
Oh, I was wrong. It's not a medical license. It's a clinical psychologist license.
Ontario and hypothetically protects the public interest, has levied a series of what are, in essence, lawsuits against me for unprofessional conduct pertaining primarily to my social media communication. And so they have decided in their wisdom that I am to be required to undertake a series of re-education lessons designed to ensure that I communicate in a manner they deem appropriate. And I have told
Sounds like censorship to me.
them that there are no circumstances I can imagine under which I would be willing to do that. And the next step is to bring me before a public disciplinary hearing and then to suspend my clinical license. And so I'm making all of this public because I think people need to weigh in on whether I'm an alt-right, Nazi, harmful, bastion of intolerable political thought with a troll-like army of pathological followers, or whether the college itself is a corrupt nest of social justice vipers hell-bent on envy and revenge and using the tiny fraction of people who are complaining to put forward their own brand of personal pathology and vindictiveness.
I mean, what more could he do to explain it properly? Like, it's just the woke mob is attacking Jordan, right? Because he doesn't share their views. And apparently, in this clown world, if you don't share their views, you get destroyed, you get silenced.
And, well, I'll make everything public except for that which I can't do on legal grounds and let everybody decide for themselves. That's the plan, because I might be wrong, and I guess if I am, I need to learn how. In any case, Mikhaila is going to talk to me for 90 minutes, and we're going to walk through some of this, and maybe you'll find that interesting, and maybe you won't. Why would you care? Well, that's, I guess, what you'll figure out if you listen to the talk. One reason might be, it's my opinion that the regulatory boards that govern professional conduct in Canada, particularly in the US as well, and in the West more broadly, have become so corrupted by the woke ideology that the professionals you depend on in moments of crisis for legal advice and medical advice and psychological counseling, some of which can be life and reputation saving, they can no longer be trusted because they're being required by the professional bodies to lie to you in the service of this warped, radical leftist ideology that's now become, what would you call it, mandatory for right speakers wherever they might exist.
Right. To me, it sounds like a religion, right? You must follow the tenets of the religion, even if it hurts people, is effectively what's happening. And we all know that zealotry is not a way to run a society, right? Effectively, it's, how would it be described? Like the witch trials, the Salem witch trials of, what was it, the 1300s, 1400s? Where, no, maybe a bit later. But basically, if you don't do as I say, you're a witch, you're an infidel, right? And as an infidel, I can dehumanize you and destroy you, is the point.
And so that's why you might want to listen and decide for yourself whether you think that might be true. So anyways, onward with the discussion. And thanks, Mikhaila, for agreeing to do this.
Hey guys, I'm coming on my dad's channel to interview him because he's dealing with some serious things right now, like usual, kind of like usual. So first off, how are you? How are you doing, Dad?
Well, not too bad. I've been preparing my public response to the decision of the Ontario College of Psychologists to require me to do mandatory social media communication retraining.
Right. Because they want Jordan to become part of the... It's like, if you're not with us, you're against us, right? And if you're against us, we'll destroy you. That's effectively what's happening. And Jordan's saying, you and what army? Because I've got mine right here. Effectively. That's what's happening here.
The College of Psychologists is the regulatory board for the practice of psychology in Ontario. There are a variety of regulated professions: medicine, dentistry, teaching, architecture, psychology. That's not all of them. And these regulated professions have a board that's appointed by the government, whose mandate is to protect the public from unprofessional behavior on the part of the members of the regulated professions. And people can submit complaints to those bodies if they believe that they've been treated unprofessionally or unethically or otherwise inappropriately by a college member, so a member of the relevant profession. And the college has been after me nonstop with complaints since I rose to public prominence in 2016, although not once before that in the 20 years that I practiced as a clinical psychologist. So this isn't the university that's after me like it was in 2017, 2016. This is the College of Psychologists, which is...
Right. And what's the point? The point is the regulatory board is corrupt, and so you have to toe the party line being the new religion, right? But the problem is this: religion and trend changes over time. So basically what? The social wave is what you have to follow, not logic, not reason, not things that actually help people. No, you have to follow whatever the cultural train is telling you must say. That's unethical in a lot of ways. That's what it sounds like anyway.
Just started pursuing me in 2016 and has never let up. Now, what happens is that anyone anywhere can submit a complaint about me for anything I've done or said, hypothetical or otherwise. And then the college can, and that doesn't matter if they're a client of mine or ever have been, or if I've had any dealings with them, or even if they're the person who has hypothetically been harmed by my behavior. And the college has decided to pursue a sequence of such complaints, even though it's in their power to dismiss them as vexatious or frivolous, which is what I asked for, on the grounds that my social media communication has caused harm to people. And so they've essentially taken out what are the equivalent of more than a dozen lawsuits against me. And I say they're equivalent to lawsuits because the penalty for being found guilty of such misbehavior is quite serious. It can involve re-education, public apology, or even the removal of my ability to practice or to describe myself as a clinical psychologist. And of course, it took me about 10 years, all things considered, to get licensed. It's a very difficult process, and I'm not inclined to give it up lightly.
Right. And to have to give it up because you're not saying what needs to be said is an insult to the intelligence of the person that does it, right? Imagine working, 15 years of your life to get such a license, only to be told that you're not speaking the proper religious words, therefore you should be kicked out, right? It's an insult to the intelligence and the work ethic of such a person. It's an insult to their identity and to all of the good that they've done to just, rip it away like that.
In any case, they have been after me to a tremendous degree in 2022. I think there's 13 or 14 complaints, each of which culminated in one of these lawsuits. I'm represented by legal counsel. there's so many of them that they're difficult to keep track of. I probably went through 400 pages of documentation this week. And you asked me how I'm doing. Well, you know, first of all, I found it extremely difficult to keep my rage under control because a tremendous amount of my time is being wasted. It's extremely expensive. The allegations are not only utterly preposterous, but entirely political in nature.
Indeed.
And then I was also afraid of it. You know, the first complaint came in 2016 in December. At the same time, the university was after me, and at the same time, the Canadian Revenue authorities were after me for a mistake they admitted making 6 months later. And you remember that was an extremely stressful time. And I was accused at that point of inappropriate personal conduct in relationship to one of my clients. All of that was dismissed, by the way, without hesitation, although the college did decide at that point, because they needed to decide I was guilty of something, even though I wasn't guilty of what I was most seriously accused of. They decided I hadn't handled my email properly at that point when I was getting thousands of emails a day. And that made it difficult for my clients to get a hold of me, even though I had given every single one of my clients my personal phone number and could contact me by text, which is something, by the way, that psychologists never do, you know, for obvious reasons. So in any case, it's been a continuous stream of investigations and legal defense. Since then, I found...
By the way, guys, again, this brings that adage to light, right? If you could throw all your problems into a pile with everybody else, you'd take your problems back in a second. Think about how much crap this guy has to deal with, and then think about what you have to deal with. And tell me if you wouldn't rather have your problems than this. Let me know in the comments. All right, let's continue.
That kind of accusation of serious personal misconduct, unbelievably stressful in 2016. It certainly contributed to me becoming ill.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really want to revisit it, you know, and so I started going through all that documentation last week so that I could lay out everything that's been levied at me. And, you know, I went through all that stuff from 2017, even talking about it now, it makes me shake to some degree. Afterwards, I could hardly stand up. I, just about fainted 3 or 4 times and, you know, had a real hard time keeping myself composed. It's very off-putting to, let's say, to have attempted to conduct myself extremely carefully in my professional occupations as a professor and as a clinical psychologist for decades, you know, to step very carefully. Of course, I never had any behavioral accusations levied against me at Harvard or the University of Toronto or as a clinical psychologist in the 30 years I was a professor and 20 years of private practice, and then to be accused of serious personal misconduct.
Right, with a political agenda. Well, exactly. So what that means is that theoretically, by the things that the profession is actually about, he's done nothing wrong. He's done nothing wrong as a professor. The only thing he's done wrong is not maintain the beliefs of the religion that demands that he behave as they say or be destroyed, which he won't do because as a smart person, he's allowed to choose not to be a religious zealot.
The essential claim was my seductive behavior as a therapist and the...
Oh, and by the way, when I say religion, I'm talking about womanism, because it acts very much as the modern day religion.
Evidence offered was that when I was offering my advice, I would spin my wedding ring, which was apparently some Freudian indication that I was, you know, sexually interested in the particular complaining client. Now, I don't particularly blame her. I mean, had she not had her problems, she wouldn't have come and seen me, you know. But the college has a tremendous gavel to wield, a tremendous hammer, and to have that brought down on you it's no joke, you know. And I've known a lot of people now who've been investigated for that sort of thing. by mobs, let's say, of one form or another, and it's very, very hard on them. So when I revisited all this, it was really, and I'd probably been avoiding doing it to some degree, although, we had to wait until we moved forward with our legal challenge before we could make any of this public. There was still an element of avoidance, and no wonder, it really lit me on fire again when I was going through this stuff. But one of the upsides was, I reviewed and organized the complaints that are levied against me now, the accusations for which I've already been sentenced, essentially. And the upside of it was that, these accusations are so incredibly preposterous and political that it's almost incomprehensible. I'm literally being, the requirement is, so the college has decided after pursuing these complaints that I don't know how to regulate my behavior properly in my social media communications.
What a joke. That's preposterous. He literally was a university lecturer. You think he doesn't know how to talk? How to regulate himself? Of course he knows how. What he's saying is purposely done. And that he doesn't share your ideology doesn't mean that he's doing something wrong. That's like saying, your religious belief isn't my religious belief, therefore I should get rid of you, right? And that is a very old way of thinking. That type of thinking has existed for thousands of years. But how sad is it that in a supposedly accepting society, in a supposedly egalitarian society, in a supposedly free society, you can't have a different opinion? How sad is that?
And so I need to be taught by their experts how to conduct myself appropriately. And so I have to undergo a series of courses, one-on-one coaching sessions.
Re-education
They're deemed experts, and they're going to tell me how I should craft my words and what I should say and what I shouldn't say. And I am required to pay for that. It's about $250 an hour, which, in our current circumstances isn't a concern in and of itself, but you can understand that for many people that would be tremendously burdensome. And the person who's teaching me is going to submit regular reports to the college, and they're going to decide when I've learned how to be the sort of person I should be so that I don't bring disgrace upon the profession and harm people. And so the claims of harm are absolutely unwarranted. Not a single person who submitted a complaint in this latest round is a client of mine, although half of them falsely claimed to be.
Oh, so they're stable people.
Their complaints anyways. Yeah. Well, I think some of it is they're probably confused about how they're required to identify themselves in the complaint form, to be fair.
Okay, or they're just unstable people who spend their time complaining about celebrities on Twitter.
Well, that's the other option.
If that's what you're doing with your life, you're probably not the most stable person.
Basically, what is wrong? What's wrong is they don't like him. They don't like how his message makes them feel. And because they don't like him or like how his message makes them feel, they then choose to try to destroy him, because rather than improving themselves or working on improving themselves or their own lot, they believe that the improvement of one's life comes about by destroying other people, which is obviously a farce, but there it is.
Yeah, and so anyways, I've gone through all these complaints, and so here's some of them. I retweeted Pierre Poilievre, who's Canada's leader of the opposition, when he was criticizing the mask lockdowns. I just retweeted him, and I said essentially that I agreed with him.
That's a complaint. They actually.
Oh, that's terrible. So bad. Worst human being on the planet. Well, you know what this is, right? This is just, you go against the government's policy, you're a bad person, we should destroy you. This is a classic. This has happened since time immemorial, right? You're not on side and you're working for a government institution. Right, this is classic.
Listed that as a complaint.
One of the complaints.
That's insane.
Yeah. They listed the fact that I criticized Justin Trudeau.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that. No, leaders and politicians, they can do no wrong. They do nothing wrong in their dealings. No, it's other people. Other people aren't properly educated. Other people aren't, politicians and leaders of governments, no, they can't do anything wrong. Yeah, okay.
On multiple occasions, there's a complaint that at one point the police in Ottawa were threatening to act with Children's Aid to take the children away from the truckers in Ottawa and apprehend them on the grounds that their parents who were involved in the protest were endangering them. And
I see. Yeah, so apparently if somebody goes against the government, you can break apart their families and steal their children. Yeah, okay. That's good conduct. That's fine. But don't say that that marriages should stay together and that families should have children. No. That's awful.
I tweeted and said, I'm not so sure that we should get the police involved in taking away the children of protesters, and we should think about this. And apparently that makes me an untrustworthy advocate for children who face childhood sexual abuse.
Oh my
You're a mandatory reporter as a psychologist, eh? And so if it comes to your attention that someone has been abused, you're mandated to report it. And so apparently I'm now untrustworthy in that regard because I didn't want the police to conspire with idiot social workers in Ottawa to apprehend the children of protesters.
Yeah, that's okay. That's just malicious. That's what it sounds like to me anyway.
And so that's another example of my reprehensible behavior. I'm being called out for the fact that I objected to Ellen Page's surgical mutilation at the hands of her physicians and her consequent advertisement of her new torso on social media. And I'm also...
Right, so basically having a conservative viewpoint, he's a bad person, right? For not... Yeah. Again, he's just not talking like the womanists and the woke crowd wants, and therefore he's evil. That's what it's sounding like to me.
Required to submit to this media retraining education because I objected to the Sports Illustrated cover of that relatively overweight young model. And there's other complaints, but
oh, what a terrible person. Saying that women should be fit. Ooh, I don't know. That sounds awful to me. Awful, just awful.
But that's the bulk of them. And so at least half, oh yes, I criticized, I tweeted out to Jacinda Ardern that I was coming to New Zealand with my army of alt-right-wing trolls, which was clearly a joke, and that's also joke. A complaint, because I guess...
Yeah, you can't make jokes. No, that's awful.
That sort of joke isn't funny when you're dealing with, woke progressives like Jacinda Ardern and Justin Trudeau. And so, oh yes, I counseled people to commit suicide. That's another one.
Oh, Lord. There is no way that a trained clinical psychologist would do that. No way. That's just cruel to throw that at someone.
So wait. You should describe. Oh yeah, describe that.
Yeah. Well, somebody had tweeted out their idea that the planet had too many people on it, and this is not a statement I am very fond of.
Agreed.
Because every time I hear someone say that, I think, okay, who exactly are these excess people that you're...
Well, exactly, right? And they say that the world is overpopulated, but it's actually not, because we could live tall instead of wide and we would be fine. So it's not, and there's plenty of land actually, if you actually look into the numbers. So it's false.
Referring to, and who gets to decide that?
Indeed.
And how do you know that when they decide that something terrible won't happen,
Right.
given that these are excess people?
Exactly.
And isn't it okay if I question the humanitarian intent of your motives for making such a reprehensible comment? So I tweeted to someone who made an argument like that, I tweeted and said, feel free to leave at any time. And which is obviously an ironic joke, but some bloody social worker in the United States decided that that was like an incitation to suicide, and so
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's so bad. Ooh. Like you can't slap back when somebody slaps you. No, that makes you bad, right? Yeah.
complained about that, and yeah, and that's I think that's all the complaints. So let's review this. Not a single one of them was levied by a client of mine, present or former. Not a single one of them was levied by anyone I had actually said anything directly to, private or public. There's no evidence whatsoever that I've produced anything regarding harm, because no one has stepped forward to claim harm who was directly harmed. So it's
Indeed. So it's BS, and we know it's BS. And it's hilariously BS, of course. All right, let's end the video there. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit all the notifications, go to my Patreon and subscribe, patreon.com/theheliosblog. Drop me a donation like Hunter M, Adrian R, and Tom M. Just click more in the description box. Buy my books at bit.ly/heliosbooks. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to the end. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.